yourself and just introduce what's been going on here for the last kind of few weeks from your perspective?
Oh boy, okay, summary time. My name is Diliana Bustillos. I'm a Venezuelan American, part of the community that's come together during the past 11, 12 days to, basically demand one thing. We want our embassy to be for the Venezuelan people. We want Code Pink, who's a group of Americans, an NGO, as well as its affiliates, to get out of our embassy and return it to the Venezuelan people. We want them to be held to justice for trespassing. And we want to support and stand in solidarity with our friends and family back home. They're the ones who are actually suffering. The irony of this craziness, of this invasion and resistance and camping and chanting, is that everybody here, both Code Pink and us, we're doing it from the safety of the free world. We're doing it with Secret Service around us, police. Doesn't matter what you think of them, at the end of the day, there is some type of security, and there's a system here that will assure that whatever happens, we will get our due process, right? There's videos, there's media, there's freedom to talk about how we feel, whether you feel one way or the other. We are standing in solidarity. I'm standing in solidarity with my friends and my family back home who don't have that same luxury. They can't just walk out of the embassy, because here's the thing, guys. Code Pink could walk out of the embassy today. They would do us all a favor. And go to Starbucks with Medea or Susan, whatever her name is. They could go eat some vegan tacos. They could have some kombucha. And I'm just trying to make this funny, but it's not funny at all, right? Like, they literally could just walk out if they're hungry, if they want to put an end to this. We're wasting a ton of energy and money, and honestly just draining a community who's suffered enough by this appropriation of our cause. And our friends and family back home don't have that luxury. They can't just peacefully go out and protest.
I'd love if you could kind of flesh out, like, one thing that I've been noticing and trying to sort of explain to people is, like, both sides of this kind of don the language of anti-imperialism. So can you kind of explain, I guess, why they think they're the anti-imperialists, but then why you sort of...
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen some of the raw footage that you've been collecting, it's a bit of a hodgepodge on that side, and I've actually gone over there and tried to talk to different people to understand, why are you here? Why are you here? Like, not all of them are Code Pink. There's a lot of mixed messages on that side. Honestly, there's some of that here too, but I want to really kind of give you guys an idea of what my evaluation has been. On that side, there's, like you said, a lot of anti-intervention, anti-war. Honestly, some people flat out hate the US on that side. And that's all. I mean, I don't agree with it. Sorry, let me take that back. I don't agree with intervention, and I don't agree with war. I don't agree with the people that say that they hate the US. I'm an American. I love this country, right? On that side, you have a hodgepodge of ideas, and while those all have a platform that they could go and peacefully protest on, it's not at our embassy. They should be taking all of those issues and going to the Capitol, going to the White House, because like I said before, they're free to do so. They have those protections. On our end, this community of Venezuelans here, there's basically three main things that we're asking for. And like I said to them before, we want our embassy back, right? Because it belongs to the Venezuelan people. It doesn't belong to a bunch of Americans who think their ideology is above all else. And we want our identities to be respected. We want our people back home to be respected. The Venezuelan struggle is not something that an NGO or whomever it is, despite whatever their ideology, gets to appropriate. They don't get to say, they don't get to make this all about the US. This is not all about US interests. And if that's your only argument, then you need to take your argument elsewhere. This is not the place to do so.
What is sort of the view of, I'll proceed this by saying, on their side I hear mixed opinions of whether they actually like Maduro or not. Like, the thing that they're kind of united on is that, like, they say that they kind of don't want American intervention, and that's why they end up on that side, but then some will say that they actually think Maduro is good, and some will say that they personally don't like it. On your side, what is the general impression of Guaido? And in particular, I think it's interesting because Guaido's party is actually under the Socialist International. It's not like they're capitalist or sort of right wing, at least in the American sense. So I guess I'd love if you could flesh out
how do I feel about people, about Guaido, and why people there.
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to inject politics into what's happening here today, right? I actually challenge whomever is looking into this crisis, walking around the embassy, or even just on social media trying to understand what the hell is going on. I challenge you to take politics, because obviously it exists, right? But try to put it on a shelf for a second. Let's talk about what's actually happening here. Regardless of how you feel, because you just said to yourself, there are people on that side that do not support Maduro. Perfect, I totally agree with them. There's people on this side who are not Trump supporters. There are people on this side who voted for Hillary. There are people on this side who actually maybe don't even like Guaido that much, but you know, he's the guy who's following the Constitution, and he's the one who's going to be able to have us and have fair and free elections. Like we're following that process that's in our Constitution. So if you put politics to the side, what you're left with is real Venezuelans just standing up for their rights against a group of Americans with a hodgepodge of different ideas and ideologies who may or may not support Maduro, thinking that they have a better reason to be here than the actual Venezuelan community.
So what actually would be if you could kind of dictate American policy, if you could say what you would like America generally, be it Trump, Pence, but even if it was a different president, it wouldn't really matter. What would you want the American government to be doing?
I would like the American government to follow an international coalition. I want the United States to stand side by side with the 50 plus countries that have recognized Guaido as the legitimate president who is following our Constitution, and support us through humanitarian aid, support us through a coalition of diplomacy. I don't want intervention. I understand history. I don't need people to tell me to read a history book. I'm college educated, and I'm lucky for that. I have also seen history. I've also read the news. I've talked to people. I've actually talked to the veterans on that side. I understand the pain and the awful consequences that come associated with a military intervention and the awful history that U.S. has in the region. But that doesn't mean that we get to generalize and take everything that's happened and apply it to the situation in Venezuela today. I am against intervention, and I ask the United States to stand strong with diplomacy, with a coalition of international allies to support the change that is happening in Venezuela and to help us solve the humanitarian crisis that is the worst that Western Hemisphere has ever seen.
One suggestion I've heard from their side that they're sort of framing as a middle ground, but I'm not sure that you would on this side, is the idea of handing the embassy over to like a third country to like sort of administratively hold it until the issue sort of settles down. Is that what do you sort of think about that? Like,
I think that's just a cop-out, to be honest. I think that's their way of saying we won in a way. This embassy belongs to the people of Venezuela. It does not belong to a neutral party, does not belong to Switzerland, it doesn't belong to the Pope. They can continue naming people. This embassy belongs to the people of Venezuela, and we're here for freedom, democracy, and to save our people from the grave humanitarian crisis they're going through. I don't need Switzerland or anyone else to come help us with that.
I think that's all sort of I had on my end, but since you sort of have a moment here, is there anything else that I didn't ask that you would sort of like people to know?
I think it's really important because I'm sure even people tweeting right now or even looking at this are probably looking at me and saying, well, she's white, or she looks rich, or she doesn't have an accent. I've been personally attacked more than I ever have been in my life this week for standing up for what I believe in, for standing up for my country, for standing up for my people, for being here for 11 days without sleep. And you know what I tell all those people who think I'm too white, too rich, whatever? I don't need to prove my identity and my struggle and my story to anyone. If you have a problem with me, you can come talk to me in person. We're right here at the embassy. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
From Venezuela? Like, did you live
I'm a Venezuelan American. I was born here, and I moved there when Chavez was elected.
Okay.
I moved to Venezuela when Chavez was elected. I came back to the U.S. when I was 16, and the Chavez regime had already destroyed our economy, shut down our media outlets, and frankly, there was no future for me. And I had the luxury of being an American and being able to come back, and I'm proud of that. And from here, I've continued my fight every day for my people and my family back home, and I will continue to do so.
And just for my own mental math, how long is that you were in Venezuela?
I'm 30 now. Oh, how long I was in Venezuela? I was in Venezuela for 13 years.
13 years. So like almost half your life, basically.
Oh, yeah, more or less.
All right, thank you for
Thank you very
talking.
much. Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it.